Hello and welcome to Healthy Conversations. I'm very excited today for Lisa Brough. She's our holistic biomagnetist from Sovereign Healing. So I'm very excited to learn a lot about what Lisa does today, but also most importantly, who you are, how you've got to where you've got to, the journeys of life in between. So yeah, Lisa, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's wonderful to come and meet you and to be part of the community.
Oh, thank you.
So, where do I start?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say your age, kids,
Yep.
all the things.
So I'm now 49, so really looking forward to that 50th, that milestone. Got 3 kids, they're all teenagers now. I'm spending a lot more time in my career now that they're older. But natural therapies for me was a very much a part-time thing while they were growing up, while they were young. Before that, I was a personal trainer for many years. And before that, I thought I wanted to be an engineer. And before that, I thought I wanted to be an architect or an astrophysicist. So, who I really am is someone who's really interested in physics and metaphysics. And I didn't really understand why I had so many diverse interests over the years and why I seemed to completely shift into something else. And it's the bringing together of physics and metaphysics that really fascinates me. What is heaven and hell? Why are we here? All those things were very important to me, yet I was very good at math and physics and logic. And that's just the brain I was given. But my spirit, my soul is all about balance and understanding how things are connected. So I think that's driven me a lot over the years, is this need to connect all the dots. And I like that in my work at the moment because I often get people with mystery illnesses. We don't know which way to go, and sorting that out, I find absolutely amazing. So originally, I took first year engineering with my first step in my career. I was going to be a materials engineer. I was going to be a lab rat. I was going to be involved in concrete and steel and airplanes and creating materials and testing materials. And at the same time, I'd gotten really interested in physical fitness. I was going to the gym all the time, probably more so than my lectures. So, yeah, this new interest was taking over. And it was that year that my mum actually passed away. So she'd struggled with breast cancer for 5 years. That was my first year at university. It was right near the end, like probably September. And so my studies were interrupted at the same time as I had this new interest. Now, she had some alternative books in the house, when I was spending that time there around the, before and after her death. She had some, she had a bottle of herbs, a whole lot of green stuff from the naturopath. And then she also had a massive bottle of morphine, so she was going medical, but thought that, that adding something else in would help. But if somebody's being bombarded with really heavy chemicals, it's not terribly helpful. It's good for recovering after, though. So I guess my first exposure to natural therapies was around then. Mm. Now, that interest in physical fitness, nutrition, like I would just read, and I knew every exercise and movement really well. I knew all the theory, even before I started my university degree in exercise science. And so massive interest in the human body. So going from physics to now biology. And so I really specialized more in the exercise science, how to optimize the body. It was all more about athletics and weight loss, and that's optimization stuff. There's nothing to do with disease there, very little to do with disease. Although I did go into biomechanical type issues and kinesiology issues, which are movement issues. So correcting biomechanical stuff, healing from injuries, all that stuff became a massive interest. Now, I did a lot of work in personal training, working for myself mostly because I do better by myself. I don't like a boss. But then I could do things my own way. And if any of you watching this know the fitness industry, you know, the pay is really, really crap. I'm working for myself. I could earn 70 an hour and I could fill my schedule and I could, you know, earn a decent living. It wasn't over the top, but it was an average median income. And I look at the industry today and I'm very glad I've moved away from it because it seems even more difficult to make a living in the fitness industry now. And what they're charging and what their expenses are it's even worse. But the interest in natural therapies spiked up again. So when I was having my first baby and I actually hired a couple of personal trainers to take over my business while I was having a bit of maternity leave. And what had happened is I'd come across this thing called EFT. So, you know, the meridian tapping. And it was just by chance. I'd gone for a psychic reading. The psychic reader had just learnt the technique. And he said to me, would you let me practice with you? Are you interested in this? And I said, oh, sure. And it just blew my mind that what I could feel happening inside my body emotionally and how everything was just let go. It blew my mind. And so when I was on that maternity leave very soon after, I started researching more. There was a wonderful website with so many case studies on it. It's now EFT Universe. And I looked up and found a teacher and I did my first course. So it's probably around 2006-ish, 2006. I did have another baby very soon after, 18 months after. And then after that, I went to go back to work as a personal trainer. And I'd since done some further education and done level 2 in EFT as well. And I think I did another 12 months of personal training. And then all my clients disappeared. I'd spent 12 months building up in a new town and they suddenly disappeared. And soon came to realize it was more of a sign of this isn't where you're most effective, that, you know, go this other way. And that's the thing, is that when it comes to weight loss, if you do EFT for weight loss, the person's internal environment, emotionally and physically, changes so much that it's almost easy to lose the weight. Whereas if you do it logically and count calories and nutrients, you might have some blockages. There might be some problems along the way because of emotional blockages and how they change our physiology. And so, yeah, so segued into EFT. So EFT and Reiki. Reiki had always been a hobby, just a side interest. And I started to do that professionally as well. So that's probably around 15 years ago, and that's what I've done ever since. And I just added to it. I just keep learning another thing and another thing. Now, the core of what I do now is the biomagnetism. And the reason why I haven't left it behind, the reason why it's still the core and it's the main thing, is just because it's so effective. And you can so easily blend it in the same session with all the other things. It brought all my interests together. And the way I found out about the biomagnetism was, again, it was divine, of that these things often are, is on the Energy Medicine Exchange group on Facebook, which is massive, like it's 44,000 people or something. And there was somebody commenting about biomagnetism being good for a particular thing. It was part of a discussion. It was in the comments. And it's like, oh, I wonder what that is. And at the time, I was suffering from a low-functioning thyroid. I suspected it, and I went to doctors after doctors. I got advanced testing. I did the 10-part panel, and all of my bloods were showing up normal. But I had every single symptom, and I'd gained 26 kilograms in 12 months. So I kind of knew, like it was logical, but frustrating. So I'd go to a second doctor and repeat the tests again. And you know what they said each time? They said, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You're healthy as a horse. You're just depressed. And I'm like, no, I've had depression before and I know what it feels like. This is different. I feel flat because of the physicality of it. It's a slightly different feeling. So following my intuition and backing myself, I just kept searching, what would be good for me. And I did a lot of work with NES Health. Unfortunately, that did not make any difference at all. But it opened me up to there's all these other magical things out there. Then I found a naturopath who specialized in thyroid, the Lucy Rose Clinic or the Lucy Rose franchise. So that's what they do. They're just thyroid naturopaths. And they do that nerve conduction test. So they don't rely just on bloods. They go more of symptoms, and they'll check your iodine, and they'll put you on the right diet and herbs and nutrients to get everything back up and running. And after about 4 months of following the program, I had about a 20% improvement. Yay! But still, still heavy symptoms. And I fully believe it. I fully believe in naturopathy. Naturopathy was involved in our fertility journey way back before having children. Naturopathy was always a really great fix for anything. But I knew it was just going to be a longer process. It was just going to take time. And that course on biomagnetism came up at about the 4-month mark. And it was in America. So I had to leave my 3 babies, children, fly to America for 2 weeks. So the course itself was about 6 days, but with all that travel time and needing a rest day, before and after, it was 2 weeks away, 13 days away, which was a massive, massive thing. Most people will stop right there and say, I cannot do it. Children, they've never been away from me for one day of their lives. It's and I didn't have family support. My partner has terrible insomnia and he cannot handle the one his own. There was all these reasons why logically I shouldn't have gone, but it pulled me. It pulled me, and again, I could look back throughout my whole life, and you get guided, and you let yourself be guided, and you make that path so much more harmonious. If you do let yourself follow those hunches and those messages. So I took a friend with me. She also found it really fascinating. We flew to America, came back. She actually had Dr. Goy's work on her personally. So she was very lucky because she had some heavy symptoms going on for herself. And it got rid of, perhaps about 75% of her symptoms just from one session. So when we came back, we worked on each other. I needed 2.5 sessions to be completely free of the low thyroid symptoms, which were the crushing fatigue, the temperature being very low, the poor circulation in the feet, the eyebrows missing, all the symptoms I had just disappeared after 2.5 treatments. And that was 10 years ago. And I've never had a recurrence, and I haven't done anything to maintain that. So I've got to be honest here, being a busy mum and juggling so much that I take the path of least resistance most of the time. And if my health is really basically good and it holds itself really well, I'm not terribly proactive all the time, just because sometimes trying too hard with your health depletes you in itself. It's keeping everything balanced there. And I did not need to do a darn thing for 10 years to keep my thyroid healthy. So it was that early success. I guess it kept me going, and it kept me practicing with people. And I would see maybe 10 people a week on an average. When my kids are younger, now I see more. It's 10 to 20 because I've got more time on my hands. And one kid can drive, and another can catch the bus, and that there's less of the mum duties, and they can cook too. So yeah, it's become my favorite thing. It works on the physics of the body. So here's the physics part. Physics meets metaphysics. Metaphysics is so complex. I don't know how you would just even encapsulate it into one thing. It's not just subtle energy. It's It's the soul, which is plasma, and that's another form of energy. It's also electromagnetic fields when it comes to the nervous system and the brain and the emotions. They're electromagnetic. There's so many different levels to the metaphysics. And metaphysics is just physics that's not fully understood. So yeah, that's been my journey so far. And again, there's more things pulling me and moving me forward, and I can see them all now. In the early part of a path of becoming someone who works with people to help them become healthy, someone in the healing arts, you don't necessarily know the next step. But at this stage now, I can start to see ahead. And again, that you start reading science better, you start seeing coincidences better, you start, what your clients say to you is often your next step. And my next step is teaching. So.
Brilliant. And are you teaching at the moment?
A little bit. I do some mentoring for new practitioners with the magnets. I teach pendulum alchemy, which is one of my favorite things to do as well, because you can do a whole lot of emotional release work with a pendulum, and you can cleanse yourself spiritually of cords, attachments, and other things like karmic patterns. And so that other interest of mine with the pendulum work is the spiritual stuff I do is nearly all through a pendulum. I rarely use Reiki anymore. It's all with the pendulum.
And so with yourself, when someone comes to see you, what would they normally experience in a generalized consult? Obviously, everyone's a little bit different, I'd imagine, but are there the key components that seem to be the same things that would happen in each session?
Yeah, that the sameness is that it's always different. But what happens is when you have your way of working that you love and it fits you, physics meets metaphysics is me, and that's my style. That's what makes my soul happy. It makes my personality happy too. And once you've got your way of working set up, you don't have to know what you're about to do with someone. I've developed my psychic and intuitive side. I do medical intuition as well. And so I don't have to prepare for clients. I do prepare for students though, because they're gonna need some handouts. They're gonna need a recording or something like that. But when you can trust and surrender, then you bring in something else very spiritual. So surrender is when you fully accept and see all the different parts of what's going on. And surrender brings you into your heart space where you're connected to the divine, and that's where miracles can happen, and another layer of release or change can happen. And that's not me, that's just a bit of a guidance into the right state. So we do a normal intake form like any practitioner would do, and just go over what they're experiencing. So it's just symptoms, it might be emotional stuff, anything they want to get off their chest. It's more getting it off the chest. That's the key, I find, because I don't work logically. The magnets don't involve actually diagnosing anything. Chinese medicine, we use a wrist, look in the eyes, tongue, and there's a diagnostic process with many natural therapies. But biomagnetism is done in a way that we've got a set of imbalances that we check, and we check every single imbalance in every single person with the idea that anything can cause anything. And so I find that expressing all the different things that are upsetting you, expressing all the symptoms that the body is feeling, expressing the frustration with your journey so far and what's happened before, you can now surrender when you get on the table. So the intake form that I do, it isn't like in fitness, and it isn't like in other therapies. It's not meant to figure things out. It is just part of the process though. If you don't do that, how can your client relax on the table thinking, oh, they don't really understand what's going on with me. I haven't told them everything. How can I relax? That they'll be not fully letting go. And so that's how I always start. And I go through my process of the kinesiology checks that I do, Some of them are spiritual, I bring that in too. And then I go into the biomagnetism, I go into the trapped emotions. And the biomagnetic pair will actually bring together the mind and the body. So 2 different points that are out of balance on the body will be related to a pathogen and a supporting factor. And so neutralizing them both at the same time has this profound effect. Now, also, what created the imbalance in the electromagnetic field of the body that gives these biomagnetic pairs anyway? Often it's trauma, often it's an emotion that supports a microbe, which then creates the biomagnetic pair. Or, there's a number of different ways a biomagnetic pair can form. It can form without the microbe. It can form just from a physical blow to the body. It can form from, low minerals and stopped an organ working properly. So there's so many different possible things going on. To try to figure it out is, it's the slow way, and it's perhaps a losing game sometimes, And if you use bioresonance and machines like that, they can give you a lot of clues, a lot of guidance. But again, they tend to be fairly layered as well, and you don't get the entire picture all at once. And so surrendering to that idea as a practitioner that you can't see all parts of it right at the start. You can't know how many sessions somebody needs to do. That's something that I had to learn, as we all do. And that if we just know the next step, or we know the next couple of months, and we have a bit of an idea what's going on long term, but we don't lock that in as that's definitely what's happening. It's not, we don't want to make it a destiny either. The placebo effect, the nocebo effect, the placebo effect are all real. You can create an illness if somebody tells you you've got it. And I've got a funny story about that. Well, I've actually had personal experience with that. So I had one childhood illness. When I was 14, I developed exercise-induced asthma. And it was my only trigger was exercise. Now, I don't remember having an asthma attack. I had a chronic light cough that just didn't go away. It wasn't distressing. It was as a minor symptom. But yeah, my mum took me to the doctor, and a series of simple tests with, the breath test and things like this, said, oh, you've got asthma. And so I was given a puffer and a preventative tablet. Now, from that point onwards, my asthma got worse to the point that I started having asthma attacks while I was playing squash. That's my sport. So here I am with some tiny expression of maybe the start of an ailment, or maybe it was something else, whatever it was a light chronic cough. And I've been told I have asthma. And now I developed the full-blown expression of asthma. It's because I believed it was true. What if it wasn't true? And I've since, from other natural therapists, and I've since learned that some people have asthma because they've got a roundworm infection. A dry chronic cough can be from the roundworm larvae moving to the lung. And there's no mucus in there. It's actually just roundworm.
Oh,
And
amazing.
so what if that was a misdiagnosis? And what if my mind created it because I believed it? So I guess I'm very careful not to hold everything loosely, hold information about what's going on with the body loosely. May or may not be correct.
I have on the metaphysics of things, I had something similar. So I was actually experiencing really bad lung issues. So I thought it was through cleaning, I thought it was through chemical usage, and I had a night where I would wake up every 2 to 3 hours in like gasping for breath, thinking it was asthma. And it was terrible. So it scared me as well. So I was straight off to the doctor. I got myself some new asthma pumps because I have had it in the past as a child. And so anyway, they put me on and did a spirometry test, like the breath test. They put me on to ECG. They checked my heart because I was experiencing chest pain. And then I even had my lungs checked. And because I'd had a previous x-ray of my lungs before, we did it again just to sort of see. Everything came back normal.
Oh, so frustrating.
I was like, what on earth is this? And I remember saying to the doctor, like, is this all, like, am I making this up? Like, what is going on for me right now? And he's like, oh, look, all the tests are saying that you have nothing wrong. So maybe it is something.
Maybe.
But
Maybe it's a little roundworm.
no. But what I realized though, give it a couple of days afterwards, I went through a spot of oh, I had an incident which created an outburst for me in the form of rage or sadness. And all of a sudden, I realized the lungs have an association with grief. And so all of a sudden, I'm allowing myself to go through the grief. And then from that space, I think I worked with a little bit on inner child about knowing that I have my own back. Like I've got this, and I'm instant fix. Never experienced. I did experience once more when I felt like I wasn't quite safe, but I checked back in. I'm like, no, I'm safe. I'm fine. It's all good, and instantly gone. So it was interesting to go through that experience because it's like I've literally felt it. I was scared that I was going to fall asleep and my like not be able to breathe and die in my sleep.
Yeah.
Having that experience to then go, oh, hang on a second, it's actually got nothing to do with my lungs, but everything to do with a metaphysical meaning, which was the grief that I was
Yeah.
experiencing. So yeah, it's
Yeah. And we see
cool.
that. We have placements for the magnets on the body for different emotions. So
Oh,
when the so basically when we need to put magnets on the lungs, it can be from lung dysfunction, something physical. But it also doubles as sadness, guilt, and grief. Yeah, they show up around that, so that it's like the electromagnetic field is disturbed on the lungs. And it's about just finding where exactly on the lung is it. So I can do it with the magnet, or I can do it with a different technique, or like you have experienced yourself, is to actually allow yourself to feel it and process it. You know, so there's so many ways to let go of something and to heal something, and whatever's the most harmonious and what's available to us and what we know about is what we tend to use. But it's great to have a few different options, and you can layer together. So like with parasitic infection, for example, layering different approaches together is far more effective, just because it tends to be a little tricky with their life cycle. So, it's great to have a few different options and awareness of all the different things that can cause all the different things.
yeah, we just have no idea. Like it's like we think that it must be something physical that creates something physical, but it may not necessarily be that at all. There's
Yeah, yeah,
other options and other ways of things happening as well. How amazing. And
yeah.
so with obviously you do a little bit of teaching, but putting that aside and thinking more about your clients that will present to you for a session, how do people present to you? Is there a theme or is there a particular area that you really enjoy working within, or everybody? And
No, it is really broad, and that's frustrating because in the natural health world we all tend to niche, or you know become specialized in something. But I would say it was just more about my own journey. So that early on, when I was doing the magnet work and the tapping work, I was mixing with people that were my own age. They were parents, they were the children, that they were the people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, mostly. So I found it was more about, early on, I did a lot of work with kids with autism and ADHD, you know, and all the different mental health issues and behavioral stuff. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of help with things like morning sickness, menopause balance, and menopause symptoms, hormonal stuff. So, so there was a bit of theme, I guess, for a certain amount of years. But you'll bring in some neurological conditions, you'll bring in some cancer patients, you'll have a big blend overall. But these days, I don't, with the kids being independent, you're not hanging around parents as much. You're just not meeting them. They're not being exposed to you and your work. And it seems to be mostly more middle-aged people who've now got a couple of different conditions. They've got some diagnosis. I deal more with people with diagnosis and things that have been more chronic these days. Whereas when you're working with children, you've got that behavioral stuff. Yeah, sure, that might be chronic, but then they're coming in for their colds and flus because they keep getting repeated infections. They keep getting tonsillitis. They keep getting the same thing over and over again. And what I do is really great for breaking that cycle. So you go back to having a normal response to an infection. It doesn't become something you need antibiotics for all the time. It becomes very simple and easy to bounce back from. And so I do a whole lot of that. So I'm doing less of that these days, the acute infection or repeat infections. And so I see a lot of people with rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, serious neurological conditions, Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, the more difficult things, because they're difficult medically. There's
And I
not a
guess
lot of
as
good
well,
solutions medically for them.
yeah,
So
like you
they're
were
more
saying
likely
a
to
bit
seek
earlier,
help.
they have you get to a point where it's like the things aren't working that they're trying, so therefore they've got to a point where they've got that diagnosis. They probably tried a few things. They're not necessarily providing the outcomes. So this is when they end up finding you.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And so that the mystery illness stuff, the people going misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, the people with illnesses that don't really have great options for treatment medically, all you've got is chemotherapy or something a bit harsh on the body. So they want to try natural first. So yeah, tend to attract a lot of those people. But, I'm still occasionally doing some work with addiction, like, quitting smoking, because the EFT is brilliant for that, or coming off pain medication. That can be terrible, absolutely terrible, coming off antidepressants and things after the person doesn't need them anymore, that they've got a good improvement. Well, there's a process of helping the body come off, and you can do incredible things with the tapping for that in particular, so that there isn't withdrawal in the usual way. It's, you just create the balance in a very quick way.
And do you, with AFT, do you do training? Do you teach that, or?
No.
Yeah.
No, just one of my favorite things. And like I said before, I think it was the first thing I did professionally in the area of natural health. Yeah, and it was a favorite because I used it a lot personally. So imagine having two babies close together. I was a bit of a strict mum with their routine. I did the contented baby book routine that they're 12 to 2, they both nap at the same time. That way I had sanity, and that way they had great sleep, great for everyone. And so I was learning EFT and applying it to myself, and I do a session on myself, even if it was only 30 minutes sometimes. And I've got notebooks, I've kept them all on all the different things I found and corrected. And I rid myself of being stuck in a pattern of grief that I'd held for 13 years. So grief, you hear about grief, about you go through stages. Your stages might differ to someone else's, but it should be something you move through. But imagine being stuck in that phase of it really was the child architect. Like, it's not fair. That it's not fair. I was stuck there. So I was upset daily in my grief from losing my mother. I had a normal life, but it was a negative part of my day. So I'm working on myself, and it's just completely gone. It doesn't come back. Sure, you feel sad when you miss your mum, but it's a normal level of sadness. It's not a dysfunction of processing an event, because I was stuck in the middle of a dysfunctional space of being stuck in a phase instead of moving on and incorporating and learning a new way to live. So it's my first love for that reason too, because it did something that seemed impossible.
It's EFT is one of those things. I've done a little bit of it myself actually, and to be tapping in some particular places around your face and your collarbone, possibly hands, that I know of.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really, that can have an impact, and you can sit there and it's like just doing the side of my hand, and it's like, oh, it's almost like a, sometimes, obviously there's sequences and there's phrases and all the things that go with that, but just it's really strange to be tapping on a certain points and to have relief. And that's what I've
yeah,
found quite interesting about the whole thing. You could be in this heightened state of emotion, go through the tapping, and you're like, whoa, I just feel so different. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be a surprise to us. We know that the brain is connected to every single part of the body through this neural network, and it's always giving feedback to the brain. And the brain is where we hold memories, we process emotion, and the nervous system is where we create the molecules of emotion that we feel as the sensation of emotion in the body. And it's all connected. So why wouldn't parts of the body be related to the emotion? It's not all just up here or in here. It's why wouldn't it? But until you've experienced it, you might not believe it.
Absolutely. And it's about that. I think this is where some people, it's like there's a detachment from our bodies in a way. Like we don't realize how we can all connect in. And if people actually were aware of how amazing our bodies are and the capabilities that we actually have within our own body, it's phenomenal. Like, yeah, it's just so
Yeah.
brilliant. I
And
love
wisdom and wisdom. What if
it.
every symptom is just a bit of communication from your body showing you something needs to be
Absolutely.
fixed, something is out of balance, something needs attention.
Yes, yes, yes. Completely agree. That's the yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been doing a lot of learning about that over the last year or so, actually. It's been really like it's impeccable, I find. Like I don't know what other word to use. It's just, to me it's impeccable.
Perfection. It's
Yeah,
perfect. It's a perfect design, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Absolutely is. Okay, so we've learned a lot about who you are, your journey, how people would present, some of the little bit of the consultations as well. What else do we feel like that we need to be able to learn more about you? I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to share that you feel is really important for potential clients to know about you and the sessions?
Yeah, I guess we all know that we click with someone or we don't click with someone, that our personalities may match, our communication styles may match or not match, that we know that we like people or we don't like people, or we
Yeah.
gel with them or not. And that's an important part of the healing process, is your practitioners should be some people that you actually gel with, because of that element of you need to feel understood, you need to feel like the other person gets you and can hold space for you to heal, that you need to be able to surrender. And I've had experiences over the years where I've the same therapy. So I go to amazing bone therapy and get amazing relief from lower back pain. I move towns and I go and find someone nearby who does the exact same version of bone therapy, go in there. And I leave in tears because she made me feel so terrible for not looking after myself. Like her communication style, she did not read me. She didn't read my sensitivity, and that she communicated something in the wrong way to me. And it's you've got to gel with someone. So in that moment, I didn't know that I'm undiagnosed autistic. That's why I'm so good at math. Um, but it makes you very sensitive. It makes you very sensitive. You cannot stand being misunderstood. So communication, you need careful communication with people on the spectrum. Frequently, it's a pretty common thing. But even not knowing that about someone, about them having some sort of neurological difference, you know, that maybe her general communication skills weren't great. She wasn't reading your face well, wasn't reading your nature well, you know. And so in terms of my nature, so I'm very calm. Everybody always says I'm calm. They always leave here feeling more calm, even if we've just had a chat. My friends that are a little bit hyperactive, and they're very mental, they can't stop overthinking. They always feel calmer after having a chat with me. And so that's my nature. I tend to be quite calm, methodical, not reactive. And that can be really good with very sensitive things. So if we're doing some EFT tapping, or we're needing to talk about traumatic things and the difficult childhood and things that have happened to you, you know, things that you find difficult to talk about, I find them easy to hear, and I find them easy to hold, because I'm not reactive. And so I found that's one benefit of the way my brain works, is it's not like it's slow, but it's not reactive. It's not immediately reactive. And that really helps when you're a healer, as you're less likely to be triggered yourself. It's really, really rare that I get triggered by something someone else says. And my stuff is my stuff. And so that's something a little bit extra about me is, yeah. So even though I'm very logical, that I'm okay with the whole idea of letting the body do most of the work. Like, the brain is just a resource. It's a bunch of information that sometimes is useful. It's perhaps a secondary tool, and it's the body, it's the energy fields, so that they tend to be the main sources of correct information about what we need to do. So that's a little bit more about me. I live at Woody Point, which is on the Redcliffe Peninsula. But at least half of my work is online. So all of the different therapies I do can all be done through self-surrogacy. So I prefer to use my own body as a surrogate. So I can do magnets, I can do muscle testing, I can, do EFT through surrogacy as well. So since COVID, yeah, probably at least over half I do via distance. I still prefer in person though. You get hugs in person, so.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that was going to be my next question about whether or not you were specifically if you could do consultations online or if it was predominantly in person. But obviously, hugs in person are way more fun. So,
Yeah, and hopefully we'll move back towards that at some stage. Maybe we've gone to some sort of extreme and the pendulum will come back. We all adapted to online stuff, but in the future, maybe we're spending too much time online. Hopefully we can pull it back, and it's online work is an extra that we do, and the main thing is back in person again. I hope.
yeah, I hope to. I think that's one of the things with Healthii Hub, wanting it to be a personalized service. It's like,
Yeah. Go back to the old ways. Go back to the old ways.
yeah, I want to send things in the mail. I want to do all the things.
I
So,
was just thinking that.
yeah.
I was getting out one of my brochures. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I should start posting these to people instead of emailing them.
Yeah, well, I got a friend of mine sent me a little envelope with a little specials thing and a few little samples, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. I haven't got this type of mail in a long time. So that's something that I'm bringing back. I
Oh,
can't
good
wait to
on
be
you.
able to do that as well, just to be able to say thank you to the members as well. So yeah, yeah. Oh, well, Lisa, I'm just blown away by yourself, your services, what you do, the energy that you hold as well. I think it's been a pleasure to meet you and spend some time with you for a little while. I'm very excited for anyone that works with you, so we can't wait for that to happen. I might have to come down for a session.
Yes,
Um,
definitely come down. I'm
yeah.
right on the water, so you'll hear the sound of the waves lapping at the back in the backyard. So
Yes, well, definitely keen. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so very excited. And if anyone would like to get access to Lisa's profile, look for Lisa Brough on the BROUGH through the Healthii Hub platform. And do you also have website and
Yeah.
socials?
Yeah, I have two websites. So I've got biomagnetisamaustralia.com and Sovereign Healing. So, but in line with what Sarah is doing is making healing all about the person and the personality and bringing the personal back. That I've put just my name in Healthii Hub, but I do have the two different business names. So the two sort of Sovereign Healing is just the name of my clinic, and I have a really large space at my own home for clinics and workshops. And Biomagnetism Australia is more about the supplies that the practitioners might need, or organising sessions just for the magnets, because some people they have a favourite thing they want to explore, they want to go with the magnets, and they don't really get into the other metaphysical stuff. And that's fine. So I do have those two websites because of that.
Beautiful. Excellent. Oh, well, Lisa, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm so excited and I can't wait for maybe we should do another one on biomagnetics or quantum physics or something along
Oh,
those.
yeah.
You
I'm
can
reading
geek
some
out
great
on
new
that.
books at the moment, so there's some things we could talk about.
I can't wait until then. Beautiful, Lisa. Thank you again, and we'll talk again very soon.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. Bye.